What happens when a television icon walks onto a talk show stage expecting a normal interview, only to face an ambush that spirals into one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history? In just 45 seconds, a simple question turned into a full-blown attack that left studio audiences gasping, panel members scrambling, and one of Britain's most beloved presenters storming off set in what would become an unforgettable display of standing up against on-air bullying. This is about the day Jeremy Clarkson appeared on Loose Women, expecting a lighthearted chat about cars, his career, and maybe some gentle ribbing. What he got instead was something nobody could have predicted. A confrontation so intense, so personal, so utterly shocking that it would leave everyone watching wondering how things went so wrong, so fast. The stage was set like any other episode. The Loose Women panel sat ready at their desk, coffee mugs positioned, notes prepared. Denise Welch anchored the discussion, flanked by Nadia Sawalha, Jane Moore, and Andrea McLean. The audience settled into their seats, expecting their usual dose of celebrity gossip and panel banter. Jeremy Clarkson walked out to warm applause, waving to the crowd with that familiar, confident stride. He took his seat across from the panel, comfortable and relaxed. This was just another talk show appearance for him. He had done thousands of interviews. He knew how to handle himself on television, but within moments, it became clear this was not going to be a normal interview. Denise opened with what seemed like a standard question, though her smile did not quite reach her eyes. So, Jeremy, you are known for being quite opinionated. Do you ever think before you speak, or do you just say whatever comes into your head? The audience chuckled nervously. Jeremy smiled, still relaxed. Well, I think most people appreciate honesty, Denise. I say what I believe, and I do not apologize for having opinions. That is what people tune in for, is it not? Right, Denise said, her tone already sharpening noticeably. But your opinions often offend people, do they not? I mean, you have upset quite a lot of communities over the years. Does that not bother you at all? Jeremy shifted slightly in his seat, maintaining his composure despite the edge in her voice. I think if we all worried constantly about offending everyone, we would never say anything at all. Comedy would die. Discussion would die. I respect that people disagree with me, but I am not going to change who I am just to please everyone. That would be dishonest. Dishonest? Denise repeated, leaning forward. Is that what you call it? Because some people might call it just being considerate of others. I am considerate, Jeremy said, his smile fading slightly. But there is a difference between being considerate and censoring yourself to the point where you are not being authentic anymore. Nadia jumped in, her voice carrying a sharp edge. But is not there a difference between being honest and being deliberately provocative? Because it seems like you enjoy stirring the pot, Jeremy. Like you go out of your way to say things that will get a reaction. I enjoy having conversations, Jeremy replied, trying to keep his tone calm and measured. Real conversations about real topics. If that stirs the pot, so be it. But I do not set out specifically to upset people. I set out to entertain and inform. There is a difference. Is there, though? Denise pressed. Because from where I am sitting, it looks like you know exactly what you are doing. You know which buttons to push. Jeremy's eyebrows rose. Is this what we are doing today? I thought I was here to talk about my new series, not to be put on trial for my entire career. Nobody is putting you on trial, Andrea said softly, trying to ease the tension. We are just having a discussion. Are we? Jeremy asked, looking directly at Denise. Because it feels like something else entirely. Denise leaned forward even further, and there was something in her expression that signaled a dramatic shift in tone. The friendly veneer was completely gone now. Entertain and inform? Is that really what you call it? Because from where I sit, it looks more like you get paid millions upon millions of pounds to insult people and then hide behind the convenient excuse of entertainment when anyone calls you out on it. The audience went dead quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Jane Moore glanced at Denise with wide eyes, her eyebrows raising in visible alarm. This was getting personal very quickly, much faster than anyone had anticipated. Jeremy kept his cool, though his jaw tightened perceptibly. I think that is more than a bit unfair, Denise. I work extremely hard at what I do. Millions of people around the world enjoy the shows I make. If you personally do not like them, that is absolutely fine. But do not sit there and diminish the work that goes into creating them. Oh, here we go, Denise said, waving her hand dismissively in the air. The poor misunderstood millionaire. The victim. Do you know how incredibly privileged you sound right now? Do you have any idea? You sit there in your expensive designer clothes, talking about hard work, when there are people out there in this country struggling just to put food on the table for their families. Andrea McLean tried desperately to interject, her voice carrying a note of warning. Denise, I really think we should maybe steer this conversation in a different direction. But Denise was not even listening anymore. She was locked in. No, Andrea, I want to hear this. I genuinely want to hear Jeremy explain to all of us how making jokes about serious issues and mocking people is hard work. I want to hear him justify getting paid obscene, frankly disgusting amounts of money to basically be offensive for a living. Go on, Jeremy. Explain it to us. Jeremy's jaw was clenched tight now, but his voice remained remarkably steady given the circumstances. Denise, I honestly do not know what has gotten into you today, but you are deliberately twisting absolutely everything I say. I never once claimed to have a hard life compared to people who are genuinely struggling. I would never say that. But my job is still a job. I still work. I still put in the hours. And yes, I get paid well for it. But that does not automatically make me a bad person or mean my work has no value. Nobody said you were a bad person, Nadia chimed in, though her tone made it abundantly clear she was suggesting exactly that. We are just questioning whether your particular brand of entertainment is really necessary in today's world, whether it adds anything positive. Necessary? Jeremy repeated, and you could hear his patience wearing dangerously thin now. Entertainment does not need to be necessary to justify its existence. It needs to be enjoyable. It needs to connect with people. And clearly, a lot of people do enjoy what I do. Otherwise, I would not have had a career spanning decades. Denise laughed, but it was not a friendly laugh at all. It was sharp and cold and mocking. A lot of people also enjoy watching train wrecks and car crashes, Jeremy. That does not automatically make them good television. That does not make them worthwhile. The comparison hung in the air, like a slap. Several audience members gasped audibly. Jane Moore finally spoke up properly, her voice measured but firm. I think we really need to take a step back here, everyone. Jeremy is our guest, and I feel like this is becoming far too hostile. This is not what we do on this show. Hostile? Denise turned sharply to face Jane, her eyes flashing. I am just asking honest questions, Jane. If Jeremy cannot handle a few tough questions, maybe he should not be putting himself in the public eye. Maybe he should not be on television at all. There is a significant difference between tough questions and outright personal attacks, Jeremy said, his voice rising slightly for the first time. You invited me here today as a guest, and instead of having any kind of reasonable conversation, you are treating me like I am on trial for crimes against humanity. Well, maybe you should be, Denise shot back without hesitation. Maybe someone finally needs to hold you accountable for all the things you say and do, for all the people you have hurt over the years. Accountable? Jeremy's composure was genuinely cracking now. Who exactly made you the moral authority on anything, Denise? You sit here on your comfortable talk show set, passing sweeping judgment on everyone who comes through that door. But what gives you the right? What makes you so perfect? The audience was completely silent now, The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. You could hear every breath, every uncomfortable shuffle in the seats, every small movement. This had gone from a simple interview to a full-blown, explosive confrontation that nobody knew how to stop. Denise's face was flushed red now, her composure slipping. I have every right to ask these questions. This is my show, my platform. Your show? Nadia interjected suddenly, looking genuinely taken aback. Denise, it is our show. All of ours. Not just yours. But Denise completely ignored her focus entirely on Jeremy. Jeremy, the fundamental problem with people like you is that you think you are completely untouchable. You think you can say absolutely whatever you want, do whatever you want, and face no real consequences whatsoever. People like me? Jeremy stood up slightly in his chair, his hands gripping the armrests. What exactly do you mean by that, Denise? Please, enlighten me. I mean privileged, wealthy, powerful men who have never had to face any real consequences for their actions, Denise said, her voice absolutely dripping with contempt. You live in a comfortable bubble where everyone constantly tells you how wonderful and brilliant you are, and you have completely forgotten what it is like to be a normal person facing normal problems. Andrea tried desperately again. Denise, please, this is really getting completely out of hand. We need to stop this. No, let her continue, Jeremy said, his voice cold as ice now. I want to hear exactly what she thinks of me. Every last word. Go on, Denise. Tell me more about how awful and terrible I am. Get it all out. You want me to? Denise leaned back dramatically, crossing her arms defensively across her chest. Fine, I will. I think you represent absolutely everything that is fundamentally wrong with modern media and entertainment. You make obscene amounts of money by being deliberately controversial, and you do not care one bit who you hurt in the process. You hide behind humor and entertainment and free speech, but really, deep down, you are just a bully with a massive platform and no accountability. The gasps from the audience were loud and audible this time. Several people put their hands over their mouths in shock. Jane Moore looked absolutely horrified, her hand flying to her chest. Nadia's eyes were wide with genuine disbelief. Andrea shook her head slowly, looking down at the desk as if she could not believe what she was hearing. Jeremy stood up fully now, his entire body language changing. Right. That's absolutely it. I am done. I came here today in completely good faith to have a normal conversation, and instead, I have been subjected to nothing but a vicious personal attack disguised as an interview. I do not need to sit here and listen to any more of this. Oh, what a surprise, Denise said, her voice heavy with sarcasm and mockery. The big, strong man cannot take a little bit of criticism, so he runs away like a coward. How predictable. This is not criticism, Jeremy said firmly, pointing directly at her now. This is you deliberately using your position of power to publicly humiliate someone because you personally do not like them. There is a specific word for that kind of behavior, Denise. It is called bullying. You are a bully. Do not you dare call me a bully, Denise snapped, standing up abruptly as well, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Do not you dare. I am holding you accountable for your actions. No, you are categorically not, Jeremy said, his voice firm and unwavering. You are being cruel and vindictive, and you are doing it deliberately in front of a live studio audience because you know I cannot respond to you in kind without looking like the bad guy. You know exactly what you are doing. Well, I am not playing your manipulative game anymore. Jane stood up quickly, physically stepping between them in an attempt to create some peace and calm the situation. Everyone, please, let us all just calm down and take a breath. This has spiraled completely out of control. There is nothing to calm down about, Jane, Jeremy interrupted, his voice still controlled, but filled with determination. I am leaving. I will not be spoken to like this by anyone, least of all by someone who clearly had a predetermined agenda before I even walked through the door this morning." "An agenda?" Denise laughed again, that same harsh, cutting, cruel laugh that grated on everyone's nerves. "My only agenda is to ask real, hard-hitting questions, not the softball nonsense that lets people like you off the hook every single time you appear on television." "People like me," Jeremy repeated the phrase slowly, deliberately. "You keep saying that. You know, Denise, for someone who claims to be so progressive and open-minded and accepting, you are incredibly judgmental and prejudiced. You have decided exactly who I am without actually knowing me at all, and absolutely nothing I could have said today would have changed your mind. You made your decision before this interview even started." Nadia tried to speak, her voice uncertain. "Jeremy, I do not think that is entirely fair to say." "Fair?" Jeremy turned to face her directly. "What is fair about absolutely any of this? I was specifically told I was coming here to talk about my new project, maybe have a laugh, answer some lighthearted questions about my career and my life. Instead, I have been completely ambushed by someone who clearly has a deep personal vendetta and wants to use this platform to attack me." "Vendetta?" Denise scoffed loudly. "Oh, please. Not everything is about you, Jeremy. I am simply doing my job as a broadcaster and journalist." "Your job is to interview guests professionally, not berate and attack them relentlessly," Jeremy countered sharply. "There is a very clear reason why people tune in to watch certain shows and certain hosts, and not others, Denise. And right now, you are showing everyone watching exactly why some hosts succeed through talent and fairness, while others resort to cheap shock tactics just to get attention and headlines." That comment hit a visible nerve. Denise's face went bright red, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "How dare you? How absolutely dare you say that to me? I have been in this industry for decades. I have worked incredibly hard to get where I am. I do not need to resort to anything to get attention." "Then why are you doing exactly that right now?" Jeremy asked pointedly, his voice cutting through the tension. "Why are you attacking me personally instead of actually interviewing me? Could it possibly be because you need the controversy? Because you need the headlines? Because without deliberately creating conflict, nobody would be talking about this show tomorrow?" Andrea stood up now too, her expression deeply troubled. "Jeremy, I really think we should all just take a breath here, please." "I appreciate that, Andrea," Jeremy said, his tone softening slightly when addressing her. "But I cannot stay here and continue to be insulted. I have too much respect for myself and for the audience watching." "The audience," Denise said, gesturing broadly. "You think the audience is on your side? You think they want to hear you complain about being asked tough questions?" "I do not think they want to watch someone be bullied on live television," Jeremy said. "And judging by the looks on their faces, I am right." Several audience members nodded. A few looked uncomfortable. The atmosphere in the studio was thick with tension. Jane made one more attempt. "Jeremy, we value you being here. Can we not just reset and have a proper conversation?" Jeremy looked at Jane, and his expression softened. "Jane, you have always been fair to me, and I appreciate that. But I cannot sit at a table with someone who has made it clear she has no interest in a real conversation." Denise decided before I sat down what this interview would be, and I refused to participate in it. "So you are just going to walk out?" Denise challenged. "Prove everyone right about you." "Prove what right?" Jeremy asked. "That I will not tolerate being disrespected? Yes, I will prove that right every single time. I do not care if it makes me look bad to some people. I know who I am, and I do not need to justify myself to you or anyone else." "This is pathetic," Denise muttered. "No, Denise," Jeremy said, his voice firm but controlled. "What is pathetic is using your platform to attack someone instead of engaging with them. What is pathetic is pretending you are some crusader for justice, when really You are just looking for a viral moment. What is pathetic is that you could have had a genuine conversation today, but you chose this instead. Nadia tried one last time. Jeremy, please, just sit back down. We can move past this. I appreciate the offer, Nadia, Jeremy said, but I cannot move past being called a bully and being told I represent everything wrong with media by someone who is actively demonstrating bullying behavior right now. The irony is not lost on me. You are being dramatic, Denise said dismissively. Am I? Jeremy asked. Or am I simply refusing to be a punching bag for someone's ego? You know what, Denise? I actually feel sorry for you. You are so consumed with whatever issue you have with me that you cannot even see how badly you are coming across right now. I am coming across fine, Denise insisted. No, you are not, Jane said quietly. Denise, he is right. This went too far. Denise whipped around to face Jane. Oh, so now you are on his side? There are no sides, Jane said. But we invited him as a guest, and we have treated him poorly. That is just a fact. Andrea nodded in agreement. I have to agree with Jane. This was not okay. Denise looked between her fellow panelists, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. I cannot believe you two are defending him. We are not defending anyone, Andrea said. We are just being honest about what happened here. Jeremy watched this exchange, then spoke again. Ladies, I appreciate some of you trying to make this right, but I think it is best if I go. This clearly is not going to be productive, and I do not want to make things worse. He started to remove his microphone. A producer rushed onto the set, trying to talk to him, but Jeremy shook his head. I am sorry to the audience who came here expecting something different, Jeremy said, addressing the crowd directly. I am sorry to Jane and Andrea, who tried to keep things civil, but I will not apologize for standing up for myself. Oh, bravo, Denise said sarcastically, slow clapping. What a performance. Jeremy stopped and turned back to her. You know what, Denise? I really hope you watch this back and think about how you behaved today. Not for my sake, but for yours. Because this is not who you should be. Do not lecture me, Denise snapped. I am not lecturing, Jeremy said calmly. I am just being honest, which is apparently something you cannot handle. Goodbye. He handed his microphone to a crew member and walked toward the exit. The audience did not know whether to applaud or stay silent. Some clapped tentatively, others just watched in stunned silence. Denise called after him. Running away is very on brand for you, Jeremy. He paused at the edge of the stage, turned back one final time. I am not running away. I am walking away from toxicity. There is a difference. Maybe one day you will learn it. And with that, he left. The cameras kept rolling, capturing the aftermath. Denise sat back down, her face flushed, her arms crossed defensively. Nadia and Andrea exchanged glances, clearly unsure what to say. Jane looked down at her notes, shaking her head slowly. The audience remained silent, the weight of what they had just witnessed hanging heavy in the air. Denise tried to compose herself, shuffling papers on the desk. Well, she finally said, her voice trying to sound casual but failing. That was interesting. Denise, Andrea said carefully, I think we need to talk about what just happened. What is there to talk about? Denise replied defensively. He could not handle a real interview, so he left. That was not a real interview, Jane said firmly. That was an attack, and you know it. I was asking legitimate questions, Denise insisted. No, Nadia said, speaking up properly for the first time since the confrontation. You were attacking him personally. There is a difference between challenging questions and what you just did. Denise looked around at her fellow panelists, and for the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I was just being honest about how I feel. Being honest and being cruel are Not the same thing, Andrea said gently. You went after him from the moment he sat down. You did not give him a chance. He has had plenty of chances, Denise argued. He has been given platforms and opportunities his whole career. And that justifies treating him like that? Jane asked. Denise, I have known you for years, and that was not like you. What was that really about? Denise did not answer immediately. The silence stretched out, uncomfortable and heavy. The stage manager signaled that they needed to go to a commercial break. The cameras finally cut. But the tension remained. The audience sat frozen, unsure if they should leave or stay. Some whispered to each other, processing what they had just seen. Backstage, Jeremy was already gathering his things. Production staff hovered around him, apologizing, trying to smooth things over. He was polite but firm in his responses. He did not shout or lose his temper further. He simply collected his belongings and prepared to leave. One of the producers approached him. Jeremy, I am so sorry about what happened out there. That was completely unprofessional. Jeremy looked at her and offered a small, tired smile. It is not your fault. These things happen, but I think it is best if I just go. We would love to have you back, the producer said, under different circumstances. I appreciate that, Jeremy said, but I think today made it clear that maybe this was not the right fit. He finished packing his bag, thanked the crew members who had been kind to him, and headed for the exit. As he walked through the corridors of the studio, staff members watched him pass. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked curious. None of them stopped him. Back on the set, the panel was still dealing with the fallout. The commercial break had given them a moment to breathe, but it had not resolved anything. I think you owe him an apology, Jane said to Denise. For what? Denise asked, still defensive. For asking questions he did not want to answer. For being unnecessarily hostile, Andrea said. For making this personal, when it did not need to be. Denise shook her head. I stand by what I said. He needed to be challenged. There is challenging someone, and there is what you did, Nadia said. And what you did was wrong, Denise. The cameras started rolling again. They had to finish the show. But the energy was completely different now. The audience could feel it. The other guests scheduled for that day could feel it. Everyone knew something significant had just happened. They tried to continue with the rest of the show, but it was awkward and stilted. Every topic they discussed felt hollow compared to the confrontation they had just witnessed. Denise attempted to act normal, but there was a brittleness to her demeanor. Jane and Andrea were professional, but notably cooler toward her than usual. When the show finally ended, the audience filed out in small groups, talking animatedly about what they had seen. This was not what they had expected when they came to watch a daytime talk show. They had witnessed something raw and unscripted, something that would be talked about for a long time. The panel dispersed quickly after filming wrapped. There was no friendly chat in the dressing rooms, no laughter or decompression like there usually was. Everyone went their separate ways, processing what had occurred in their own time. Jeremy Clarkson left the building and got into his car. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, taking a deep breath. It had not been a pleasant experience, but he had stood his ground. He had refused to be treated poorly, even in front of cameras and an audience. For that, at least, he could feel some measure of satisfaction. He started the car and drove away from the studio, leaving behind one of the most dramatic moments in talk show history. A moment that started with a simple question and ended with a guest walking out because he refused to accept being disrespected. The confrontation between Jeremy Clarkson and Denise Welch on Loose Women became a defining moment, not because of what was said about cars or careers or entertainment, but because it showed what happens when an interview crosses the line from challenging to hostile, and when a guest decides that enough is enough.